because this was 1982. Okay, now you see little robots chasing things around and running around, but this was this first attempt at building a robot. And a friend of mine, somehow on the Navy base, went to Tokyo and got a modeling job, and so I went with her one day and okay, I got signed up. I didn't know what that meant or what I was doing, and so that began my sort of modeling stint in Japan. I'll read the Steve Jobs quote. He says, "Man's ability as a tool maker will allow him to fashion a tool to amplify his ability to do more efficient and creative."
When I was 5, I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Welcome to our show. I want to introduce my friend, Chris Frisina, because we've worked on a couple books together. And I want to introduce Pam and Val, writers. And then my sister-in-law, Jan, is a writer and also a psychotherapist.
Oh, okay.
Up near Berkeley. Yeah, she's driving distance. And I thought Chris would be really fun because I met Chris. No, Chris called me because she needed a book designer. And I guess she was asking around. And so we have a mutual friend, Sabrina Papa. And she's what do you call her? And she's more than an editor.
Well, Sabrina, she's more of a punctuation specialist. I hand her something and I'm going, oops, okay. It'll come back with, it's all marked up. She's go, no, you move this comma here and move this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what she did for my Japan book. Yeah. But she doesn't deal with pictures or anything like that. It's just punctuation.
So that's how Chris got my number, and the book, she had already done 2 books, and so she called me to work on. First was How to Kill a Contractor. Second one was
I like that title.
Lost in Japan, and the one we worked on was called Lost in Silicon Valley, and right now we're working on Lost in Hollywood. And Lost in Hollywood is all about her father-in-law, who was the first violinist for the LA Phil forever.
Oh, wow. That's
and
amazing.
He's drop dead gorgeous.
Oh.
We found a photo online, and I'm like, I think that's Cary Grant. She goes, no, I think that's my father-in-law.
Gorgeous man. Was a gorgeous man.
So Lost in Silicon Valley was where we met. I think we met at her house. She lives if I live the farthest in Santa Barbara, she lives at the other end.
Right.
Oh, wow.
In Santa Barbara, near Goleta, up on the hills like me. Like if the crow flies, I get there really fast.
Straight across. Yeah. But it takes a good 20 minutes to get there.
Yeah. And she has 2 black and white cats. One is Picasso, and the other one is
Sylvester.
Oh.
It looks like somebody threw paint on him. He's black. So he had a strange name when I got him on. No, he's Picasso. So.
That's great.
I love cats. I have cats in every
all love
book.
cats. Yeah.
I love cats.
So we've got Lost in Silicon Valley. She's got a manuscript and she's got a binder. And this binder is full of, her pages from her manuscript and photos, put in plastic. Everything's in plastic sleeves. So we sometimes referred to that as the Bible. I mean, that took her a long time.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing for a manuscript that had pictures in it.
Yeah, it is.
So everything was in a plastic sleeve. And she said to me, she pulled out a book. She goes, I want it to look like this. And the book was oversized and hardbound. and I didn't tell her I didn't know how to do that because I've only been
Poser. No kidding. Right.
standard sizes.
Oh.
Everyone has to start somewhere, huh?
Yeah, well, I just had this idea, and I didn't realize that I kind of stepped out of the regular forum. Anyway.
But let's go through her books because I want to ask her about her pseudonym here before.
Oh.
Her first book was How to Kill a Contractor. Now we all know where that came from, personal experience.
Yes.
Yes, so we built a house here in Montecito, and the first contractor was somebody that was recommended by the architect, but we hadn't quite even begun framing, and I realized this is kind of all wrong, and I don't know. We were mistakenly living in Northern California when we were building in Santa Barbara, so I wasn't there every day. Anyway, so the upshot was that he sued us when we fired him, and he wanted to be paid like for the whole job like it was finished. I would pay him just to get rid of him, but not all of that. So, we went to court for a good almost 2 years. So the upshot was I'm like, I need to vent a little bit. So I'm just going to write all this down. But I had to change. It's change your name to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
So I changed all the names, including my own name. So I used CC, and then my maiden name is Vaughn. So that's how that name came, which is
Fantastic.
Which is me, but it isn't me, but it is. So anyway, I self-published that, and I actually did it through, I think, Ex Libris Books. It was all on my own because nobody would help me. And so anyway, I did it, which at the time I thought, I made a kind of a funny ending because, if I was going to write that title, then something had to happen to him. So that's how that title came about. Anyway, To Kill a Mockingbird, To Kill a Contractor. Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, I was going to ask you about these pseudonyms. CC Vaughn, your next book is?
Well, I used my name in the Japan book.
Okay, Chris V. Frisina?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny in your life, your parents give you a name and then they shorten your name. So instead of Christine, they called me Tina. And I was Tina till I was about 12. And then I had to grow out of that and say, I don't like that anymore. Now I will be Chris. And I've been Chris for the longest time. But in being an author, I think, well, I need to own my name. So let's just give me the whole name, Christine. And then I used Vaughn and then Frisina.
Good.
Anyway, that's the iteration of my changing my name, so to speak.
Okay. So on your next book, it's going to be Christine Vaughn Frisina.
Right. So I see I've got Christine V.
Yeah.
I always needed to break up my name because the last name and the first name, people want to make it rhyme, like Rosanna Dana. So I was Christina. And I'm like, no, it's not Christina Frisina. so that's kind of, and people will still do that to me. So I kind of had to break it up. That's how that.
Good.
That makes sense.
I just want to ask one question. How did the lawsuit come out after 2 years?
Well, you spend all this money and you pay all these attorneys and everybody still, so you get a mediator and another mediator. And finally, in the end, there's the attorneys or the insurance for all the contractors and everybody put in money, and you get maybe $80,000 out of all of the goings on, which we split $100 and some $1,000 to be $80,000 for us. Which was just like, okay, when we're just going to walk away from it. And then my attorney wanted me to give him the $80,000 because he said, you should owe me money. And I'm like, no, I'm not paying you. I'm not giving that to you. So you don't win anything. You just kind of escape if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. True. It's true.
That is crazy. What a mess, huh?
Yeah. So never, ever want to do that.
So this is her second book, Lost in Japan.
So-
I didn't work on this with her. It was already done, but tell them the story of that.
So, my husband went in the service. He had 2 years of active duty when he finished his college degree. And Japan was his last choice, but he was in naval security, so he could think about maybe where he wanted to go. But they sent him to Japan. And he'd been there for about a day and a half. I was going to stay home. And he called and said, I am not doing this by myself, because they put him in a Quonset hut with about 6 high bunks and all these men in the latrines and all the stuff. And he's like, okay, you have to get over here now. So when you're talking through, the Navy's always listening. So you have to say over because you're on shortwave. Hello, over, come to Japan. Over, what? Over, you know. So, so my first flight, I flew to Japan, and ended up in the middle of Japan in 1968. So there was no English, there was no Western anything, unless you were on the base, and we lived off the base. So it was a great immersion into Japanese culture and learning my way around. And a friend of mine, somehow on the Navy base, went to Tokyo and got a modeling job. And so I went with her one day and like, okay, I got signed up. I didn't know what that meant or what I was doing. And so that began my sort of modeling stint in Japan. I was there for 18 months. And so this picture on the cover, I was, which I did in a little studio. I had no idea the picture was going to be on the cover of Expo 70 magazine in 1970. So they superimposed, well, I had sunglasses on. They superimposed the towers of the Expo 70 in Osaka, Japan. So that's how that cover came about. And I just decided, okay, I'm using that for the cover of the book. And did a lot of funky modeling jobs. Hardly knew where I was going. Usually I had an interpreter. So anyway, it's that story. And it's also a military story of Kamiseya Naval Base security in the middle of Japan. So it was an adventure. And years later, I thought I need to tell this story for my granddaughters, maybe. But you can survive anything. Yeah.
You know, I can see, I was in Korea and for a year and a half, and I can see they love the blondes. Oh boy, I can see why you got a modeling. Seriously, I had a roommate over that was blonde hair, blue eyed. And she was from Missouri, you know, Midwest girl, and they just loved her. Thought she was just the cat's meow, you know.
I don't have any interior pictures of this. I miss about that. So you'll have to buy the book because it's got some of the ads of her in it in the 60s, and they're fantastic.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So, you know, you save these things. And then years later, you think, well, okay, I'll do something more with it because whoever gets the next, you know, album, it's just going to go in the dustbin. So I kind of consolidated everything there in that.
And I have to say, this book has a lot of photos inside it. So there was a binder created.
That's so
well, yes, my first gal I worked with, who unfortunately passed away recently, made sure that I put every picture and every page in its own plastic sheet so she could move them around when she was editing my book. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but now I've adopted that and I've said, Karen, here's the next binder of stuff. So we can take pages out, move them around. They don't,
it really works.
They don't tear so easily. So yeah.
No, it's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
So this book is up on Amazon because we just did the files to We didn't do a reprint. We just got it up on Amazon.
Yeah, we
again.
had to capture it from her friend who had the file and republish on Amazon,
Yeah,
so I
that's
could
what we did.
control it myself.
Cool.
So then I had started the Silicon Valley book, and then Karen graciously accepted to help me. I don't think she knew what she was getting into. But,
Well,
yeah,
I think that's the best way. If you know what you're getting into, you might not do it.
right.
Is
So
this one of
that's
your pictures from that?
That's from Japan, that picture.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I think
So
it was
cute.
for Yashica cameras or something.
Very, very Audrey Hepburn, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Lost in Silicon Valley. Oversized book, lots of imagery.
Okay.
She had collected a lot of pictures, but with this book there was a lot of research too. So that's really fun for me. I realized that I really like that, searching for images.
Yeah.
So that
Copyright
story is after we were back from Japan. We were in LA for 10 years, and then Tom got an offer from Nolan Bushnell. Well, actually, our friend went to work for him. And Nolan Bushnell, who founded Atari and Pizza Time Theater and all of those things, thought he was going to make a personal robot. Okay, this is how out of the box this was, because this was 1982. Okay, now you see little robots chasing things around and running around, but this was this first attempt at building a robot. So we spent 2 years trying to make this robot. Almost went public with this silly company. Thank God it didn't, because as Tom said, we would have been sued because he really didn't work. I mean, they had a program.
The robot didn't work.
Right. He could talk, but it was all pre-programmed, and the bigger one would be obsessed with heat rather than. So he was programmed to like follow people around, but he liked lights too. So he'd go and talk to a lamp. Hi, my name is Bob. And you go, wait a minute. So this is
look at that.
a futuristic picture in the desert that we took of.
Yeah.
That's actually Topo, the smaller robot. But they were very good at creating images of what we thought.
That's a wonderful image.
Which they had done a little ad campaign on. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
A little bit of R2D2 vibe there.
Yeah.
That was the thought behind it.
Yep, I can see that for sure.
Because this is
Amazing.
this is after Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right.
So everybody's thinking, why don't we have an R2D2?
Right. So that was the thought. You can build one, you can have one.
Right.
Yeah. So we did sell a number of them.
I bet.
Because it could bring you a drink. Like it had a little arms.
Arms that fold down.
That's great.
That's my husband with the robot. So he was, my husband had hair then, and he was the promoter for the robot. So anyway,
Great.
go on from there. So I'm talking about the beginning of quantum physics and where these computers and things came from. And then on the right is a picture of Nolan Bushnell, who is the founder of all these ventures.
Very cool.
So very early in Silicon Valley, you guys were down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a little I love learning about this stuff. I didn't know that much about Silicon Valley, but it all started with the little
Yes.
little transistor. And so they could.
In people's garages. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's cool. Yeah.
That is neat.
Wow.
So Karen loved this picture because these engineers often showed up barefoot or however they showed up to work on these things. So that was kind of the image.
They were the creatives.
Right.
Nobody knew how to treat them. Treat them like a scientist or an artist.
But now the uniform is shorts and t-shirts and
Right.
flip-flops anyway, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My
But
youngest son's an engineer, so yeah.
I love that Chris pulled up. She had all these great quotes throughout the book. I thought that was great too.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to put something from everybody that was around, Steve Jobs and people that were all part of that whole genre up there. I'll read the Steve Jobs quote. He says, "Man's ability as a tool maker will allow him to fashion a tool to amplify his ability to do more efficient and creative work."
Nice.
Okay.
It's-
He was a brilliant dude.
Owning your craft, making stuff to help with your craft. That's great.
Right.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
There
great
you
one.
go.
Look at that.
Lined up for production. Yeah.
Well,
Waiting.
it's like a prototype for iRobot, you know.
Yeah. So this Tom had this article in the the San Jose Mercury News, and this was Tom was later making a game, the War Games, actually with Tom Clancy,
Wow.
and so I can't read this article, but it says
Yeah.
war is hell, but for computer game makers, it's a heaven-sent opportunity. So my husband's over on the right there in the little picture, but anyway, that's
Oh, yes.
So cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so Chris had collected all these images and newspaper articles, and I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? But I said, you know what I want to do is just keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we did that throughout, and even in our next.
even though that newspaper was crumbling, Karen somehow managed to get it into the book.
Well, you get the feel for it too, how long ago it was, how
Mhm.
early all of this was.
Mhm.
My
But
God.
not that long ago.
Mhm.
Well, right. You know,
That's
of course.
what's tripping me up.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that long ago.
I know.
Because that is, what does it say, 1991?
I think.
Yeah.
March 24th, 1991? Yeah,
Wow.
Mhm.
I have a child older than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so this is an earlier picture, but this is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. So part of being in that business was you went to this CES, Consumer Electronics Show. This one, pictures from Chicago, 1983. So we're jumping back. But anyway, so that's
I
me
like-
in the middle before I had blonde hair, blonder hair. Anyway.
Mhm.
That's Chris and Tom in the middle. And I just love this photo because it was just so 80s.
Yeah.
The color scheme.
How
Yeah.
the way we were.
She has some really funny stories about these consumer electronics shows. And so we keep threatening to, we've been thinking about marketing this book.
Mhm.
It's like, we have to go to this consumer electronics show with a little booth to sell our
Thinking,
books.
taking our suitcase and dragging it through the showrooms, trying to sell my book. I'm like, I don't know. So anyway,
Yeah, those were the days of shoulder pads. I guess they're back in.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there it is.
Oh, this is the chapter interesting too. So the book is divided into robots up first,
Mhm.
then AI,
Okay.
talking about AI, and then the last part is the video games.
So in this chapter, we're talking about searching for AI because we were really doing that with the creation of the robots. We needed artificial intelligence, which we didn't have. So Tom and I went back to the movie 2001, where the robot is controlling the
Right.
ship, and he's saying, "Open the pod bay doors, Hal," and Hal goes, "I can't do that, Dave."
Yeah.
So there's this sort of back and forth between technology and mankind. So that's what I'm talking about in this chapter, about what is needed for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love that James Cameron quote that I warned you in 1984 that AI could not be stopped.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Yep.
I found out. I went, okay, that's going there.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Tom's quote here says, I would have said no AI discussion should be held until the participants see the depiction of AI computer HAL 9000 in the film from 1965, 2001 Space Odyssey. They needed to comprehend the immensity of the result of going to AI-generated machines and the possible not so happy result for our world.
Mhm.
Well, they're dealing with that now with some of this stuff.
Very
So,
much so.
um,
Very much so.
Well, when Terminator came out in 91, I remember I was 22 years old and in the Army, and I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? That movie still baffles me, and the stuff's going on now, right now, all that stuff. So yeah, that's amazing.
Karen found this picture. I go, oh, that's cool. There's all the funky old machines. Look at those
Sorry, I
things.
just love this photo so much. It's a museum in Holland or somewhere, or Berlin. Go figure.
Oh,
And it made me laugh because, remember when the cell phone was the size of a shoebox?
yes.
They've got it all there. And that reminds me of my husband, John. He had one of the first Macs.
Wow.
And so when the Apple store opened, he brought it in there, and the kids were over it going, oh man, look at that. And he got all excited and he goes, how much is it worth? And they're like, nothing,
Nothing.
except,
Yeah.
to have to love the design of this museum. There just needs to be a place where everything like that sits.
Oh, sure. Sure.
You can
Absolutely.
see it.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you're right. It doesn't seem like that long ago, because that starts in 1986. I was in high school, and I remember our first computer lab had one mouse in the entire
Right.
lab.
Yeah.
Because the
Mhm.
mouse was the big deal then, because we were,
Yeah.
you used DOS on everything. So yeah.
So video games were the next part in her Silicon Valley adventure.
So when Tom left the robot situation, it sort of started to wind down. And then he moved on to video games. So he started making some of the first video games, which one company was Accolade, which made a lot of sports games, which was like Hardball and Mean 18, which is a golf game. And so there were a lot of those types of games, also cars, so it was more what people were familiar with.
Mhm.
And then they wanted to play the game so they could hit the ball or they could do things on their computers now. So that was kind of the next thing that happened. And then there was a second video game company that he started himself called 360. And then ultimately he went to work for Electronic Arts that's still in existence today.
Yes.
And he made a lot. He was charged to look outside the studio that the company had and find material in Hollywood, if you will. Let's see.
Let's go to the next slide.
James Bond. They made a James Bond game. So this is still in 360, and if you go forward a couple, you'll find the next games that he did. One was Battlefield, which was based on World War II.
I put in Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor.
After,
Hmm.
Do you mean
after
the movie?
Hollywood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice. Oh, yeah.
So that was a big success for the company. These games were a little difficult for me because they were a lot first-person shooters, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
is that what you're making now?
That's what
All
they're
right.
making now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
So,
saying.
Yeah.
But in looking for Hollywood to provide the genre or the things that he wanted to make, he met with the people that were making Lord of the Rings. Tom and I were in New York, and we met with New Line Cinema, who was making in New Zealand, where they were creating the movie.
Oh, right. Right.
And somehow got an agreement they would bring the game to, they would bring the movie to the studio in Silicon Valley so the company could look at it. And they just flipped over it. It was a weird scene with a cave troll of Lord of the Rings. But so they created games to go with the release of the movies, Lord of the Rings, or the Lord of the Rings games. And that was a big deal for the company. They also did Toy Story. They did a lot of different styles, not just particularly one genre. It just was what could be acquired for the company to make. And ultimately, the studio in Electronic Arts took over a lot of these games after Tom had discovered them and brought them in and got contracts to make these games. So that was
Awesome.
what he was involved in.
So cool.
Yeah.
So, I didn't realize how big video games were.
Oh,
And
Oh, they're huge.
huge.
really, on my phone, it's like world news, celebrities,
Yeah.
video games.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I have a lot of nephews, and my son and nephews, and so, man, they're just, and even girls too. I'm just saying this. Oh my God, all night gaming. You know that, Pam. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Well, what home in the U.S. doesn't have that bang, 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 bang in the background now?
Yep.
Everybody knows it. We're
Right.
used to it.
Yeah.
You don't say, "What's that?" Oh my God, someone's shooting. No, it's a game.
is it real? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to get really interesting here. I was talking to my son last night, and they just picked up a PlayStation 5 just a couple of weeks ago, and they've jumped $200 because the chips are so hard to get right now.
Oh.
It's wild that's what it's coming down to. But so a lot of these older games may have a resurrection coming up,
Right.
at least for a while.
Yeah, could be.
But it's definitely a distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when Tom was doing these things, military people would love to play his games because
sure.
they could just be doing it, but distracted from it at the same time, and be immersed in it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
some of them were fairly realistic. So people were learning skills, which was kind of amazing.
Well, Tom was doing this, all the running around and changing offices and companies. She was raising 3 boys.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Wow.
They're now a bit older. We have 5 grandchildren, so it's it's like kind of amazing. You can go back and just touch these things, and you go, wait a minute, that was 30 plus years ago or more, or something. So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness.
Gorgeous. She's got a great website. It's just really simple. Her 3 books are there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what we did with the book after. Like I said, it was hard to find a printer for this oversized book because it's,
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I really didn't. I had this idea because there was an electronic arts book that they made, and I said, "Well, Karen, I want my book to look like this." And
But we got to do things like these are called end pages. And if you can print on them, so that was really cool. Anyway, sorry, we found. How did we find Dan? Dan Shanahan, the print man.
through Anna
And Lafferty.
Anna Lafferty, and he helped us because it's a difficult book to print. And then he goes, "Oh, well, you need to have it sewn. You don't want to just have it glued." And we're like, "Sewn? Oh my God!" So we did all of that. Cost a pretty penny.
Right.
I'm glad we did it. But when you try to put these books in bookstores, then they go, "Oh, well, it doesn't fit on the shelf quite the same way as all our other books." I mean, people sell a lot of books that are oversized, but I didn't realize that if you want, you should probably make it. The regular size was just like 7.5 by 10.25 or something, so that they can just stack it on the shelves with everything.
The book was not printed with Ingram or KDP. And so I didn't have a link to sell them, a button.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes, they
yeah.
do.
Books in the Midwest. And luckily she found Casey.
Yeah, I have a gal who would just getting yourself into Amazon and all that. You think why wouldn't they just take my book? No, it's a whole long thing you have to go through. And I had this gal who's helped us, bless her heart, get the books on Amazon. So
It's doable. You can get your books from a warehouse to an Amazon shipping.
now 400 books are sitting in the Amazon warehouse in Michigan or something. So, I thought, well, why don't they just send them to California? There's a place down the road that I know is an Amazon center. No, I don't know why it went where it went. And I somehow wonder if I would rather have my books in California where I could check on them.
Sure. Yeah.
Way.
Not in your garage.
Not in I have 100 in my garage. My husband was not too thrilled about that. So a lot of lessons learned along the way about doing this and what you think you're doing, and then you say, okay, so this next book needs to be this size, and we need to do this, and we need to have it printed much more reasonably. And I would love to find a publisher for the next book. So I'm still, somebody will help me do it rather than I have to pay everybody to do it, which is, but I am doing it. So the next book is about my father-in-law, and a friend said, well, I had to write this. We ought to write this book. So he was the concertmaster of the LA Philharmonic under Zubin Mehta. For 25, 30 years. So Zubin is now 90. And he's always been so kind. So I assume he'll just say, this is okay if I write this book, that I have all these pictures of Zubin in there with my father-in-law, David Frisina. So it's getting there. And it's much more research project, because I'm like, I don't know about this, or I don't know about that. And then I go, oh, it's just kind of this wonderful surprise when you find this piece of information that you didn't know these pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Yeah, so, I think people don't realize how much of writing is doing the research.
Absolutely.
And you can spend days and weeks looking for something, and whether you'll even use it or not, but still.
That's right.
You've got to like the research.
Yeah.
I also think your book, I would have chosen a larger size too.
Yeah.
It deserves it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I probably, if I'd seen it in a smaller format, I wouldn't have been as interested. It definitely needs a bigger format.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get it on Amazon.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we as far as marketing in town, we have been to every bookstore. I said, I'll go with you. We've been to all the
Teccolodi.
bookstores. We've been to Teccolodi.
You
We've
won't
been.
take it?
They took it. They did Teccolodi.
Teccolodi has it. Grudgingly, Karen
They
said,
didn't want it.
Karen knows Mary at Teccolodi, and she talked her into it. Oh, it'll be fine. And Mary says, "You'll have to dust it." And we're going, what? Dust it? She was afraid because it's black. She was going to worry about. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway,
See, I think it'll sell. I do.
Well, you know where I want to see it? At Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
So we've been to all the bookstores, and
Okay.
then we did a book signing at Teccolodi.
Okay.
And if her husband's there, it's really fun because he chimes in.
That's cool.
You're kind of like George and Gracie, if you remember them.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why it ends up being that way. And I'm like, oh, you're not going to say that. He goes, yes, I am. I'm like, okay, fine.
Of course.
So we did that, and then you did one at the women's club
Yeah.
across the street from the Mission.
Right. So we've done that. I need to do some more. It's interesting how much energy it takes to sort of pull yourself together and okay, I'm doing this. And it's not a natural for me. So anyway, but
well, the marketing part is just so hard for most writers.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a whole other thing. You know, the writing is one thing, and it's fun, and there's a lot to it, and it's a hard work. But the marketing is totally different animal, and most writers don't take to it naturally.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a lot of people that take advantage of writers and
Oh,
stuff.
well, we
There's
know about that.
vanity presses and, people, and you're learning with them. And so, some people just aren't honest, and I think that's one of the reasons why starting Crimson Crow Press is that we've all been through all of it and we understand it. And so to help other authors, because, it can get expensive too.
Yeah.
you
Real
know,
fast.
Real fast,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So I think it was it this book where you started to come over here and we worked together?
Yeah. Karen says, she says, nobody has ever come to my house yet. And I'm like,
What
do you mean?
There was one day where I said, we'd just go meet and we'd talk, and then I'd come back a week later with some printed pages or something on my Mac. And one day I said to her, would you come over? I have an extra chair. I swear.
I Happy in the Cat's chair.
And because I said I've got a lot of moving pieces because we have so many photos.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It just worked better. In fact, we were working before we got on here, and it's like, what if that was up there? What if we went, nah, I don't like that letter.
Yeah, that's great.
Back.
Well, Karen's great. She could just move things around. I don't know how to do any of that kind of stuff, and like there isn't nearly like this. So it's like, okay, well, this goes here and that goes there. And then it's like, oh, this makes sense. And oh, we love that picture. So let's use that.
And we feel like we've got a lot done.
Well, you do.
I'm exhausted. After a few hours, you can only do it for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Layout's so huge to have a book, especially an oversized book like that, to make sense and to be marketable, that's huge.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
And I love the idea of putting the pages, separate in a binder that you can move around.
Yeah. You just hand them around and don't have to worry.
Yeah, because you don't think about that because
No,
what
you
we
don't.
all write is just, it's not, there's no pictures in there.
Yeah.
So you don't think about things like that.
Yeah.
So it's very cool.
Well, even just movement with excerpts and prose, it's like I've had some other writing friends in our group, Jan, and just everybody on here on the podcast, just move this here, move this. This goes better here.
Mhm.
And And it does. You take something from the end of your story, you move it, and it just changes the whole trajectory of the story.
Right.
It adds to it in a way that you didn't see before.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I think that Karen, and I know you're good at it. So moving all that stuff around, gives you more ideas, and you see where the placement's important.
Yeah.
Very much
It
so.
is.
Yeah.
So
But having someone tell you, like a writer, tell you, pick it up, move it up.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Well, when we're doing this book, well, even the Silicon Valley book, but this book, everything is from the 1930s to almost the present, and it's like, oh, this is the wrong year. This year has to go here, or
Mhm.
it's it's a bit of a daunting task to keep it in somewhat order so it makes sense as people are reading it.
Yeah.
And want to make
And also, you didn't live it like you did To Kill a Contractor and
Yes.
Japan. You're researching.
Yeah, I didn't live all of those things. I came onto the scene in 1967 in my father-in-law's life. So it's like, okay, I didn't know all of that before. I had to just piece that together with things that his mother, Tom's mother, left me, which is like, okay, what am I doing with all this stuff, carrying it around? Then you realize, okay, it's got to get organized and put down.
Right.
It's just going to disappear.
Yeah.
It's just the big thing in telling a story is put it in a form, and so you can leave it for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what you talked about earlier, a legacy for your grandchildren. That's huge. That's a really cool thing to be able to give to them.
Yeah. So, and they'll appreciate it more later, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only them, but their children. It's something that can be.
Well, yeah, this is who we were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of an awesome or kind of daunting in a way to make it. Mm-hmm.
I think the chronological progression, though, of it, how you have it from the 1930s into, that is so cool, because we're looking at our parents. My parents were born in the 1930s. Our parents.
Right.
That time, and you get a look at, what was like the height then, what was, and you see how far we've come as society, but also gone back too. So I think that in that chronological progression of it, that's interesting. That probably would have to stay, but you still move stuff. But yeah, I think that that's really, really cool. Absolutely. This is what was going on in the 1980s. The Star Wars really in the late 70s, propelled people.
Oh gosh, yes.
There's more out there. Can we build stuff like this? Even though that's not my favorite stuff, science fiction, I still appreciate it because it takes a lot of creativity.
Yeah. 1992 or 91, when I first heard the term from a client who was at a postdoc student at UC Berkeley. And she said, oh, my boyfriend and I communicate through email. And I looked at her and said, email? What's that?
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's communication, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
To think that the first time you heard the term and to now.
Right.
Is
Yeah, it's come so far so fast. My kids had pagers in high school. That was the beginning of stuff.
right.
And they all wanted a pager, and you thought that everything we thought was the end all be all, and then it quickly all changed. So
Yeah.
Pagers and stuff for the change for the phone booth.
Wow.
10 cents on the phone, and a phone booths. I used to talk to people
Right.
phone booth in
In
my
your
lunch
quarters.
breaks. Yeah, talk to people, and now they're considered, like it's a relic.
Yeah.
Kids don't even know how to work a phone.
Yeah, they don't even know how to dial them. It's just hilarious.
isn't that amazing?
They don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they have no clue. Or now that they're talking about, we should just go back to just have a central phone in the house, that everybody can use, and do away with this other stuff. And it's like, we grew up with that. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, the phone cord eventually got to be about 30 feet long. Talking it around the corner so you could talk to your boyfriend with nobody listening in on you.
Right. Or
And the cordless phones
in
came
your
out.
bedroom and get it through the door. So
Yep.
no.
And then cordless phones came, which is genius. Whoever thought that next? I mean, that's just
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
You know,
You felt so big, walking around with this,
walking
but
around to talk. Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
really didn't have that far of a range before you get out of range. But still, it was cool. You could walk around, not have to drag that cord.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all
Amazing.
swinging back around, it seems like. Pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
We did reach out to the LA Phil archives, and they got all excited.
Oh, that's great.
We're a really well. What is your deadline? But we're a really small group, and I'm like, great, but we haven't heard back from them yet. But we promised them kind of a layout. So I think pretty soon we're going to be able to send them a layout so they'll know exactly what we're looking for.
That's great.
Also, Chris had the idea of contacting the LA Phil and seeing if this book could be in their gift shop or
Absolutely.
sale.
I'm going to try to
So that's
work
something.
it differently. And then Zubin's in Florence right now, but he'll be back in LA sometime this summer. And I said, Tom, we're going to take a book to him or a copy, and hopefully he'll bless it, maybe sign,
Yeah, that'd be
How
great.
cool would that
for
be?
me.
Well, because Zubin because David and Zubin worked at the same time. Every photo of David is gonna, because he's the first violin. It's just his back of his head. But
So he was the first violinist.
yeah,
The concertmaster.
but they were inseparable. But so we feel like we're pumping up Zubin in some chapters, but really that's just because you can see him. Or he is.
I don't know. He's just so glorious.
He's just so fun to look at.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, love this picture and this picture. I said, but it's all Zubin. Wait a minute. Tell the story. But then a friend of mine last night said, well, maybe you should write a book on Zubin. I go, oh God, I don't know.
Well, he was only 25 years old when
It's incredible.
he came here to substitute for a conductor, and Dorothy Chandler heard him.
Oh, okay. The Chandler family, right?
Them.
They're the big LA people.
Yeah,
I have a few a couple of caustic letters that when she hired Zubin, she was just determined he was going to be the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
So there was another guy, George Schulte, who was supposed to be the conductor. And so I have a couple letters that they wrote about Dorothy Chandler deciding and manipulating the whole thing. So
See, those are the stories that people want to read.
Yeah.
All that
know that.
circle stuff where and it was the women in those families who were doing all that kind of behind the scenes.
He went and saved the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Bowl has been around since the 20s. They used to for Easter Sunday services. And she's like, no, this place is too great. They tried to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was running in red. And she's like, help me. And she called on two musicians and
Piatigorsky and Heifetz to
Yasha Heifetz?
Save the Bowl campaign.
So they did 3 concerts to make money to save the bowl.
Wow.
You're
Yeah.
right, man.
Yeah.
Her name, let's call her Buffy. I mean, that was her nickname, right?
Yeah.
It was Buff or Buffy. And, she, in one letter, one of the guys calls her Hair Catherine the Great or something because she was, how she was running things. So,
Yes. Yeah.
But
and those women, those stories are fascinating. They had a lot of power, and they had, the husbands were behind them. And they had huge money.
mm-hmm.
New York, take any big city up here, San Francisco, same.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
the men were probably taking all the credit when the women are the ones that sold everything
actually, no,
together.
not in those days. Not in those days. These women, would they walk in a room, everyone was oh my God, you know who she is?
That's wonderful. I love
That's
that.
so and so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if your book would do well, Chris, Pam, at some of the Paragon paranormal type stuff that you go to, where they would have like, science fiction stuff, and they
Oh,
have.
maybe some of the Comic Cons and things like that.
Yes.
Very possible. Yeah, because there's a lot of
That's a good idea.
there's a lot of video game
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
that might very well be interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
Cool.
one, Val.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to buy your book because I know my son and his best friend will love it. Because if I have to watch Star Wars one more time, they know all they know everything. So they love that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy a copy of your book as well for my son. He'll read it.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a cool time, really. Of
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
As we're closing down here, winding up, is there what should we look forward to coming from you in the future? And do you have any of your platforms where people can find your work that you'd like to give us? Or
So I'm on Instagram. I'm not very good at these things, It's not where I came from. So Lost in Silicon Valley and Lost in Japan are both on Amazon.
And Christine Frisina has a website. Christina Frisina. I just did it.
You did it. Gotcha.
Christine, I get it now.
I
Oh my God,
I
that's
really
so funny.
had no idea when I married this man. Be dealing with this name that rhymed and be Rosanna, Dana.
Christine Frisina has a website.
So that's why I put Christine V in the middle, so it would stop you from.
Oh.
what are you guys working on? What are you working on? So you're still working with Karen on this last novel then? And
So I'm working on Lost in Hollywood. It's a history. My father-in-law grew up in Philadelphia, went to the Curtis Institute of Music, which was a tuition free.
Mhm.
And then he followed his music teacher out to California and bumped his way along and somehow got into the LA Phil.
Met Buffy.
The story I'm not going to tell you. You have to read it, but I would say we're about 2/3 plus with this book.
Mhm.
We're just working on the late 60s, early 70s today, what was going on with the LA Phil, and they did a world tour, and then they made a number of albums with London Decca. That was a big deal. Always Zubin made it, and David as concertmaster. So all these things will be there in the book, and
and because he was so good at what he did, he did other things like soundtracks, and Frank Sinatra
he was Frank
scooped him
Sinatra's
up.
concertmaster too. He played
Really? Wow.
about every album. David is concertmaster with Frank, so he did My Way,
Wow.
all of those songs, and
So there's a whole chapter on the Capitol Records.
That's
How
And
cool.
you know that building was not designed to be a stack of records. Not the guy. They wouldn't tell him what it was going to be used for.
well, it was an office building he designed, but then it looked like a stack of records, and then they put this radio tower on top, which people thought, oh, is that the stylus for the records? What is that?
He
So-
denies it.
He denies it, but that's kind of how this iconic Capitol Records thing came to be. And so David recorded with Frank Sinatra in the Studio A, which was the rectangular building at the bottom of Capitol Records.
Wow.
So they were right there at the beginning of Capitol Records, and
Amazing. That's amazing.
That is.
Wow.
Mhm.
Cool.
so that's the bigger picture. Why I say Lost in Hollywood, because he really was all over Hollywood, besides just being with the LA Phil at
Wow.
the Hollywood Bowl, etc. So on that note, there's this thing called The Offer. I don't know if anybody's seen this series. It's about the making of The Godfather. It's
Ooh.
called The Offer, but it's all these characters created like Brando and all those
I
Pacino.
have seen it. It's fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it
The
kind
Offer.
of the offer. It kind of takes you
Yeah.
back to old Hollywood and New York, and when the
Yes.
mafia
Yes.
was controlling a lot of things, and somehow David navigated Frank Sinatra and all of these people without getting in trouble. I think. I don't know.
That's incredible.
I don't know how he did that, but he was just always one of the guys.
Yeah.
So it was all cool.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we can find you on Amazon and Instagram.
Yes.
And are you on Facebook?
Not really. No, I should be.
No, I get it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Facebook's not as big as it used to be, huh, Pam?
No.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. When
You're better to be on Instagram.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
But
Cool.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really.
This was so nice to meet you. And Karen, I just have to say, I've been staring at that freaking picture. I
Right.
love that picture.
Don't you love it?
You.
It's the photograph, Karen. The guy's photograph.
The net.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah,
love it. That is
I
beautiful.
loved it too.
I know. I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Don't you love that? I do. I love falling in love with my wall art.
But we'll have to go down. We'll come down to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Come in July.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, I'm coming. Oh,
I grew up on the grounds of the General Hospital in Santa Barbara.
Really?
Yeah. My father was the director for 27 years.
Wow.
Well, he's medical director.
Uh-huh.
you guys have some interesting lives. I'm telling you. I feel like I'm land, you know. I'm like,
Me too.
I'm from the Midwest, meat and potatoes. Here,
Oh, all good.
Exactly. We got corn and cows out here.
Corn and
That's
No, I actually live in the city. A lot of people think that I was all farming. No, I live in the city, just like people
She
in
does. Yeah.
New York think that it's all city, upstate New York.
Yeah.
I live there.
Oh, yeah.
It's country. It's beautiful.
Des Moines really, really big.
It is. It's
Yeah.
kind of
I
big.
say really, really big because I'm
You're from a
yeah.
small town.
very small.
Yeah.
We have less than 1,500 people in our town.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Chris, Karen. I hope I can't wait to see your collaboration together because your collaboration with me on my book cover is fantastic. Pam also, Jan, everybody's wonderful. We got to do this together as artists. I believe that. And so everybody, thank you. We're tuning out and we'll see you next time.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you. Bye.